Hello, everybody. We are live. I am David East, and this is
Chef Delaney from Fireship.io.
And today we are going to be building a real-time, it just goes without saying with Firebase, but we're going to build a real-time weather app with Firebase and Svelte. And this is pretty interesting because my experience with Svelte is only pretty much to the point where you run through Svelte Playground or like look at some examples or watch Fireship.io videos. So like that's my extent. Jeff is really, Jeff's going to really be anchoring it here because it's not like he doesn't know a ton about Firebase. So I'm pretty much redundant here.
Yeah, I've kind of, I don't know, over the last few years, experimented with all the different frameworks, and Svelte's one that I especially like. So I think works really well with Firebase just in terms of simplicity and things like that.
Yeah. So what is the oh, hey, Eli. Good to see you. Well, also, the way we're going to be doing this, I should mention that, is at least I think this way we're doing it. We kind of planned this. We met yesterday. But so we're going to, Jeff's going to pull up a code sandbox that has some initial Svelte and Firebase config. And then we have a real-time updating weather app that none of the data is real. But we're going to just kind of, go through that. And I'm going to be kind of like, emceeing it. I might take over at one point. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But so get your questions in the chat. I'll be answering. I'll be chatting with you all. David and Jeff in the morning. Oh, that could be a radio show we could do.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so get your questions in the chat. Just start chatting and yeah. But I'll open up with the first question. And how is Svelte? I kind of know how. But how is Svelte different than other frameworks? Like if you were in a meeting at work and then they were like, we got this greenfield app, what should our front end look like? And if you were gonna like hammer on the table for Svelte, what's your pitch there?
Well, the first thing, the way that Svelte is different from say React or Vue is that it's a compiler. So instead of shipping a runtime that's like doing virtual DOM to keep the app performant in the browser, it's just compiling everything to raw JavaScript. So there's no actual runtime shipped, which makes your app smaller and tends to make your app more performant. Like the performance is really nuanced, so I don't want to speak too much to that. But it's if you talk to Rich Harris, he'll claim that it's the most performant framework out there.
So I saw this thing on Twitter because spend a lot of time on Twitter nowadays. But where Yehuda Katz of Ember and TC39 fame was saying, like, I see a lot about how Svelte, maybe you don't know the answer to this, but he's like, I see a lot how Svelte compiles everything away, but Svelte's like homepage site themselves links to some internals. And then Rich Harris came and responded and was like, well, like we also can use some of, there is some runtime or something. Like I read, that was 2 minutes of me reading. So this is a very informed question I'm asking. So is there any kind of like runtime that's available?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm not familiar with that.
Okay. Maybe we'll find out.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, we'll find out.
We got a lot of people in the chat here. Ricardo from Italy. Thanks for joining us. Pawander, who has been in a lot of these streams before with me. Always good to see you. Luis from Colombia, Morali, Jose from Venezuela, Akash. It feels kind of weird to see Jeff's voice with his face. My mind is searching for his amazing video somewhere on the screen.
Yeah, it is kind of weird. I try to make my videos as efficient as possible, and so I think putting my face in the video is like just a waste of efficiency. Like I feel like it's just unnecessary.
Yeah, I wish I had the lack of vanity that you have, Jeff.
That's nothing against anyone that puts their face on their videos. It's just my personal style.
Your videos are amazing.
Thanks.
So let's get. You want to get started? We'll pull up the code sandbox.
Yeah, let's go ahead and yeah, I'll screen share over here. Yeah, so I've done a little bit of the setup already. If you see, can you guys see it there?
Oh, I have to add it to the stream. I'm a bad commander.
So if you, this is a basic Svelte app. So you have, uses rollup as the module bundler. So that'll take your dependencies and compile everything down to your actual like distribution JavaScript. And first in the index.js file, you just have a simple app class that attaches itself to an element in the DOM. And that's going to be your Svelte app. So that, you know, works the same way as React and Angular and Vue as well.
Here, do you know how to change settings? Can we bump? That probably looks like 14 or 16 pix font. Can we get that to like 18? I mean, there we go. Good old plus.
Yeah, I could just zoom in a little bit.
I wonder if you can do.
You can try Zen mode too. That might help a little bit.
Oh, Zen mode. Zen mode's good. You can do command, comma. I think that's the VS Code one. I wonder if they mapped it.
Okay.
No. Okay. That would have been nice. Oh, that's good. I can see that.
Yeah. Okay.
That's awesome. If you have a hard time reading, just let us know.
Yeah, pretty. If you're familiar with Firebase, it's pretty straightforward. Here, we're just import the SDKs that we want to use, and we have our Firebase config, which is this app with some weather data. We'll take a look here, and David knows more about this particular project than I do, but it's basically like some weather data that updates every few seconds. So we'll use that to create something, you know, some kind of real-time feature here.
Yeah. So this is just a it's a Firebase project called Weather-Fire. It is publicly readable, but no one can write to it except for like an administrator on a server, on a private little server that's running on App Engine. I could do the same thing on Cloud Functions with a scheduler, which I probably should port that to, but I wrote this 2.5 years ago before we had scheduled functions. So it pretty much just loops through the cities and updates them randomly. Nothing really too crazy. All right. Do you want to collapse the Lavi recommended that we collapse the left sidebar? Command B, I believe, will do that.
Oops.
Oh, well, it really collapsed it.
Yeah.
Or if you click on the little paper fold.
There we go. Okay.
I'm talking to a Windows user with all my Mac hotkeys.
I mean, I actually use all the different operating systems. I use Linux, Mac OS, and Windows. And actually, if you saw my last video on WSL, which is Windows Subsystem for Linux, that was a pretty controversial one. If you go into the comments, a lot of people are very attached to their tools. So like, people's strong opinion is that Mac is the best, and
forget
Windows is terrible.
Let's talk about dev setup.
Right. Yeah.
Alt F4 saves is what Eli says.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So let's, all right. So the way that this, Thomas says that video was awesome. It was awesome.
Thanks.
So let's, Arjun Yamancelli in the building.
Hey, what's up, Arjun?
But let's just get a single city. BER, that's the only one I think I really remember, is the only document ID I can remember right now from cities.
Okay. So, so we have our Firebase JS file, and then if we go into an actual Svelte component, you have a script tag up at the top, you have a style tag, and then everything below that is just your HTML markup. But like other frameworks, it's empowered HTML to where you can use different characters in here that you couldn't use in normal HTML to bind data to your template. So like
There you go.
If we just had a value up here that we define as a regular variable, you can think of that as local state for this component. So this is a value that's going to be reactive that changes anytime the actual source data changes. So, if we had something that changed that value, incremented it or something, it's going to always update the template like you would expect in a reactive framework.
So it seems like, the big difference here, well, actually the huge difference here is that you have this .svelte file, which is sort of takes you out of, it's not, syntactically, it's actually not that different than what you're used to seeing, but being in a .svelte file, like if you're, just opening up VS Code for the first time, you're gonna have to install the plugins and stuff for it and whatnot, the syntax highlighting. So Svelte, since it's a compiler, like you said, they use this Svelte file to really have full control over it to make sure when they do compile and stamp out all of your elements or your just components that, they have total control over that. Right.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen it described as like its own programming language, basically, because they're taking this syntax here and compiling it down to JavaScript in kind of like a similar way that TypeScript would work.
Yeah, I mean,
you almost have to think of it as its own language, but it's basically just JavaScript.
Yeah, whenever you write your own compiler, you're pretty much getting into that
territory
of your own language.
Yeah, exactly. So the framework has lifecycle hooks, one of which is OnMount, which in React would be component did mount, I believe. And
so this is very hooks-like.
For the lifecycle hooks, it is.
Right.
When the component's mounted, it's going to run the callback inside that you pass inside here.
Right.
So it's like a good place to set up your initial data, which we'll probably want to do with a real-time subscription to the document.
Oh, this is really interesting. So what is this?
This is nothing, actually. I'm typing that out of habit, actually.
Is that something, do you find yourself writing this a lot with Svelte? Or
I kind of do, yeah. I'm in a habit of doing that mostly from working with Angular and Vue.
Right.
Because you use this a lot with those frameworks. But
it's
a habit. It's like around from different frameworks. It's just, I'm just kind of used to it, I guess.
Is this then refer to like that, for lack of a better phrase, like a parent scope? Like how you have data equals, let data equals null and OnMount, would this .data refer to that?
I think there we go. Just going to the window, but
also I've learned that the Code Sandbox console is not as accurate as the real life console.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so it says here, do before console.log, do a string this, colon this, just to see where. Oh, sorry. Like I see what you're doing. Okay,
yeah. Let's see here.
All right. So we're doing. All right. So we're going to get into cities and then doc of BER, which will be for Berlin. Okay, and this is actually something I'm really interested in as far as as far as the reactivity goes, because I like how reactivity is like really like a first-class concept in Svelte.
Right. Yeah, it's everything's basically reactive, or any value that you have that starts with let, like you're just declaring a regular variable, is going to be reactive. And if you have props, like say you're like passing in a value from a parent component, you can just export that variable, and then you have like a reactive prop that you can pass down from parent to child. So things work like top down and Svelte just like they do in React and other frameworks.
And that gives me a question, but I think I'd be getting ahead of myself if I asked it. So I'll have to table that. So you're assigning docref inside of OnMount. So is there is OnMount a bit like use effect, like with React hooks, where like if I'm not sure how familiar you are with React hooks. I imagine, fair enough, given your line of work. But with React hooks, I'm going to call use effect, and that replaces the lifecycle methods, and that's where I'm going to do on snapshot. So that is OnMount like similar to that in that way, where I wouldn't just write on snapshot without calling OnMount.
Yeah, usually it's you'll know that all your bindings are available when you call things during OnMount like this. But I believe you can still like run this code outside of OnMount, and everything is probably going to work fine for the most part. But I usually do, for a component, I usually do my initial setup in OnMount. It's just your basic initialization, just to be safe, I guess. So what I'm trying to do here is we have the document reference, and then we're subscribing to it with on snapshot. And see, I'm trying to print out the data down here below, but I'm not seeing anything show up just yet.
Here, so I have a good idea to sort of, can you live this? And so what you do is you go to, is it this, not the spaceship? Maybe, no, it's that one. Yes. So you are living it. So here, ping that to me. I don't know if all of your windows are open. If you want to ping that over to me.
Yeah, it's over the StreamYard, I think.
Okay. Let's see. Actually, I could probably just pull that up. Go to the double person thing at the bottom tab.
Okay.
And what is the code? If you're in classroom mode. Okay, so you gotta.
Is it everyone can edit mode?
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
And go to the code for it. I think so if you click on the text box up there above stop session, this is like total hacker mode. And go to the end of that string. Yeah, that's okay. Let's see here. Should not be doing this. I am. Let's see here. And what are we doing? KR. So can you pull it back one more time? I was the code. Was it KR what?
Yeah, over here it's
KRXVZR. KRXVZR. Now everyone's gonna come in here. And let's see what happens if we just hack it. We just hacked it. Okay, cool. So now I can have, oh wait, no, it didn't work.
Yeah.
Wait, we look one more time. What did I do? Code /. Can you go back to the end? So just click on the text box. Yeah, no, it's cool. /line KR. Let's see if this works. It's looking promising. Wait.
There we go. I see your picture showed up.
Whoa, yeah, it's loading, but the capitalization matters.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering. Because I recently introduced a bug like that. So it's loading for me. Oh, here we go. Sweet. So what I'm interested in, because I wanted to sort of muck around in here. There we go. I see it in the, okay, and you see it now too. Cool. So what we've done so far is, mine's still loading, but we have taken it so we have just subscribed to this. Now, this OnMount is something that you're going to be using a lot. Like this is like ng on init, or like you were talking about use effect. I'm not sure what the equivalent is in Vue, but like this is that main lifecycle method. Like if you don't watch yourself, you're going to have these OnMount methods with like all this stuff going on in it, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's like the safe place for you to do your initialization for if you're loading data into the component or anything like that.
Lavi asked why we're not using VS Code because it has live share as well. It does, but then it's harder to share the browser because you can only share a certain window with this. So we can't like share multiple windows. Otherwise, yeah, that'd be great. And Thomas asked if either of us has a podcast. Well, not yet, but actually, I am going to be coming out with a Firebase podcast sometime soon, once I can just get myself to get everything submitted. So stay tuned, like and subscribe. And Arjun recommends that you change the name to Marquee. And I don't know, it's kind of a good recommendation. Let's go up. There's more. Kenny asks, does the framework insert a semicolon automatically for things? So not just the framework, JavaScript does that. ACI automatic or ASI automatic semicolon insertion. It's a controversial part of the language. You should just Google it and get literally every opinion that can confuse you on it. My opinion.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because in Vue they tend to not use semicolons,
right.
Which in most other frameworks they do. So it gets really confusing if you're jumping between frameworks like that.
I use semicolons because it's just, I don't know, like it feels weird not to. And there's some use cases where if you don't use semicolons, it will bite you. But those are pretty few and far between. So my stance is, you do you, and then enable prettier.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Pratik asks if this works the same way as it does in Angular. And so this in Angular is bound to the class component. Whereas what is this bound to? Is it bound to just like that scope of script?
Yeah, I don't know if this, in this case, goes all the way up to the window, to the like global window object. I think it does. But
so what it's doing then is,
let's try this.
JSON stringify this. That's a scary recipe.
Yeah.
Undefined.
Okay, undefined. So yeah, in strict mode, if it goes up and there's nothing there, it'll just be undefined. So yeah, that makes sense.
So it's having no opinion of this like other frameworks do, actually. It's deferring to like what the browser is going to do with it, or JavaScript.
Right.
Julian, and actually I saw Rich Harris talk about this too. Julian says one cool thing to do is you can move your style tag to the very bottom. So your JS and like HTML like will kind of just be organized next to each other. And Rich Harris said that's what he does as well.
I kind of, styles get in the way. I kind of like to put them just way down at the bottom like this.
So when he said that though, in this video, he saved and then Prettier enabled it and then swapped them all around anyways.
All right. Yeah, I think this might auto format on save.
Yeah. Eli says use semicolon, kids. All right, we gotta move on. All right. So let's all right, so we have the data going. You keep moving forward.
If we go down to the actual template, you can see Svelte, it does its control flow a little bit different than other frameworks. And like Angular and Vue, you use directives.
Right.
So you would have like an if statement directly, like in Vue, it'd be like the if directly inside the HTML element. But one thing I like about Svelte is it takes that control flow outside of the elements. So you have a really clear idea of like what your conditional logic is doing in the template. And you do that with its own syntax here, where you have a hashtag followed by if, and then it gets closed out somewhere else.
Though it does seem though that Svelte has directive-like syntax for events, right?
Yeah, so certain things that like have to be on the element, you'll use directive-like syntax. I don't know if they call them directives specifically. I think they do in Svelte, because that's what it is. But
right.
You can also create your own custom directives, which I believe they call actions in Svelte.
Okay. Okay. So that's what I was wondering. I didn't know that. That's so when you actually, let's not get into that. I'm going to go way down the rabbit hole. We came here to build a weather app. You all are going to get a weather app. So, all right, cool. So right now you're doing if data because this is asynchronous. And so if there's not data, we don't want to. So you could also provide like an initial value or anything like that. But
yeah, data could, I set up data here as an object, so it should always be defined now unless Firebase returns a null value, which it would if that document didn't exist.
right.
So I could probably get rid of this,
I see.
state from here. And I believe everything would work fine now without any problems.
Yeah. Okay. So so we have the image. Let's get the, let's just bind the rest of the data. So I believe it's name, condition, temperature, and then you have image already. Arjun is pointing out that my subscribers have grown 25% in 3 days. Yeah, it's true. When you do things in terms of percentages, they can look really good. That's how you write reports. You're like, we are up 100%. Or you're like, the growth has been exponential.
Yeah, exactly.
1 to 2, it's exponential growth. 2 to 4, exponential growth. That's how you make your way up in the world of business.
Yeah, exactly.
Pratik asked how many lifecycle hooks it has apart from OnMount.
It has on destroy, and then it has, I think, 2 other lifecycle hooks at least. One for like before update and after update when there's, I believe when there's data changes.
Okay.
But yeah, pretty simple, pretty like similar to all the other frameworks.
So it's kind of like a should component update kind of thing.
Yeah, something like that.
Or ng on changes.
Well, not quite like ng on changes, because Svelte has this other cool thing called like these reactive declarations that you do with the $.
Yes, with where your Blink 182 meme popped in.
Right. So this is a really cool thing because this basically replaces computed properties like you would have in Vue, or like ng on changes also in Angular. So you can, like, anytime something changes on the component, you can capture it here. So let's see. So I'll just say weather changed. I'll just alert that every time our data changes. And I don't know if this will work in the sandbox, but let's see.
Yeah,
so we can alert.
Let's see. It will just give it like a second. It should update.
So you can just run code here, or you can create basically computed properties using this $sign syntax, which looks kind of weird at first, but it's pretty nice when you get used to it.
Okay. Now, here, put the temperature at just somewhere. I don't know.
Okay.
One thing Pratik just asked, and Thomas, I'll get to yours in a second, but I think is very pertinent to this. As one of the things I've seen, maybe not from your video, is how to do state management. But I know that Svelte offers like the stores, like very kind of like very NGRX-ish in some ways.
Yeah, it's actually a really good question. So Svelte has its own called a store, which is very similar to an RX observable, or even like an observable that you can write values to, like a behavior subject, if you're familiar with that. So you can create these stores and share them throughout the application. And when you do that, you can subscribe to that data. And Svelte has some really nice syntax that you can use to like subscribe and unsubscribe from the different observables or stores that you use in the app. Let's see, I could actually show you an example here.
Yes.
I believe we need to import store from Svelte store. So they have a writable store, which is basically like your behavior subject. So it's an observable that you can also push values to over time.
Okay.
So it tends to be really useful for things like state management.
And Is there any like operator style methods, or like how would you transform data that comes into the store?
There's nothing quite like that. I think it's very limited in terms of like operators or anything like that. So you have to kind of make sure the raw data you're pushing in there is what you're actually using as UI. Let's see. I'll just call this our data store. And so it's a writable store, and it starts out with a null value, or could just be an object here. And now it's kind of arbitrary for this example, but we'll just go ahead and call data store. Let's see. Now I'm trying to remember what the actual.
Isn't it dot right? Dot.
I think it's data store set.
Okay, yeah. Can't remember either.
Yeah, I think data store set and data store update. If you update your callbacks to the most recent version of the data, so you can kind of like compute values based on the last value that was in there.
Okay, so actually here's something we could do. So all these numbers are in centigrade, because it's what most of the world does. But we're Americans. We don't know what that means. We look at 17 and we're like, is that cold? Like, yeah, I don't know. So
yeah, it's hard for Fahrenheit to Celsius.
Yeah, so you could convert. So like inside the snapshot, you could convert Fahrenheit to Celsius and then push that through, or Celsius to Fahrenheit, and then push that through data store.set. And then you would have like your, so this is where you're doing sort of all of your computations, all of your like any data, any undesired formats from the server. You could like, here and then send them through the store. And then that way that person only subscribes to the store, and they don't have to care about whether that comes from Firebase or wherever the heck it comes from.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. We could, we could take this temperature data in Celsius, convert it to Fahrenheit, and use that on the store. That'd be a decent to kind of demonstrate how it works for right now.
And how would you do that as far as like exporting it? So like, could you create just like a store that is lacking, sans any styles and markup?
Well, let's see. Well, one thing you can do with the store is you have this, if you use the $sign down here in the temple, automatically subscribe to the store. So you can see up here, we're getting the temperature times 3. And we just subscribe to that value by putting the $sign in front of it. And now that's automatically going to give us the computed value, plus when this component is destroyed, it will automatically unsubscribe, which tends to be very important if you're working with Firebase data, because otherwise you might have memory leaks and like data being read in the background that's costing you money.
I totally agree. So let's see here. So you know how like you would create like a store, or you would create some like reducer.ts or something like that, and it's completely independent of any markup. So it's Svelte. Is that something? It seems like you have this 3-prong approach of JavaScript and script markup, on the page, and then style and style. Is there a way to just be like, hey, I'm just writing a reducer function, but I want that to be able to be imported by multiple spots?
Yeah, you can definitely do that. You can just write your regular JavaScript files, kind of how we did with this Firebase JS file, and export things that you use. So you could put a reducer function here, or you could actually import Svelte store here and create stores that you should components.
That is super useful because that makes sense. I was completely overlooking that you can import JavaScript, just raw JavaScript. I kind of knew that, but like wasn't fully clicking in my head that you can import raw JavaScript from Svelte.
Right. Yeah, it's anything that's like not UI related, you can extract into just regular JavaScript. And same thing goes for like any utilities that you have that don't necessarily need to be in the component. You generally want to keep your components focused on the UI as much as possible.
Okay. One question we got in the chat, maybe this is time to do this, is Alexandre asked, how would you share data between two components? And that might be a good spot to go. So like where we have button.svelte, we could just create like weather card.svelte, and then app creates the subscription. And then we pass all that into weather card, which is not exactly sharing state between two components, but I feel like that's the starting spot.
Yeah, it'd be a good idea to show like how state can flow from top to bottom.
Exactly. That's how you would, yeah. I think that's like you do that first, and then you figure out how the leaf node or, a child component bubbles state back up to be, I mean, that's how I tend to do it in most frameworks, regardless, of their philosophies. I like to have like one container component that's responsible for lots of different children components. The children's just have like click style callbacks or whatever event that I need to know, whatever input output, how Angular calls it. And then when they fire off their events, the container is able to reduce that state, manage it, update it to the server or whatnot.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely a good way to go. So what I'm kind of doing here is just extracting some of our UI out into the child component, which we're calling card. And let's see here. In the script, we need to create a prop on this component to make the data available. And so we do that by just calling export let and then the name of our prop.
Yeah, so that's really cool.
Yeah, and if you just have let, you can think of it as internal state, and then you have export, which makes it external state, that it's signifies it's coming in from some other external source.
So that's similar to like input outputs with Angular or input.
Right. Yeah, exact same. Or similar idea. Let's see here. And Svelte really nice syntax for passing down. If you have that data available in the parent component, you just wrap it in braces, and that's all you have to do. And actually, if we had multiple props, you could pass using spread this syntax.
Yeah. So that's cool that it's similar, but a little subtly different than React, because with React, you would have like, so like open up card one more time, or maybe I'm wrong here. You have export let data. Now, if you had export let img and export let name, would those go in as like name equals
yeah, actually
image equals?
Yeah, let's actually refactor, because that would be more of the way you probably want to set things up, actually.
Well, depends. So, like, I think you're right. Like, I think in this case that might be fine, because like the card could feel more natively like a natural like HTML element. So having separate props when you're only dealing with like 3 props is fine. But eventually, you get to the point where you're just like model equals.
Right. Exactly. Let's see. So okay, we need an image too.
And Pratik is asking about lazy loading of routes and stuff, and we'll get to that in a second. We gotta get this card done. I keep rushing Jeff with all these questions as he's trying to live code.
Let's see. So now that we have those, okay. So now that we have props exported, we have these 4 props. Data's defined. Currently, we're passing this, and I think we can use spread syntax because all of those properties are available on the data object.
That's right, because they're the same name. Let's see, data is not defined. It's probably just uploading. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, so now and that's I think more common to pass props in like that, because usually you have a UI component like this that takes in a few props from its parent, and then if you have all those properties on a single object, you can just pass them in really easily.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And just for syntactic curiosity, could you show how to pass them in individually?
Yeah. So we would do, in that case, let's see. pass the name in like this, we'd say name equals data.name.
So it's very, very similar to like it feels very JSX-esque at that point.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you save a lot. Like the great thing about Svelte is like there's no wasted characters, it feels like. They really like maximize the most you can do with the actual code that you write.
Oh, and I have a question. I maybe someone had mentioned this. That's not me, but those styles to every .svelte file, are those scoped to the component?
Yeah, the styles are scoped just like they are in other frameworks. So yeah, these styles won't bleed out into other components in the app.
I don't know. You can always say view encapsulation .none.
Right. But it's actually the harder thing in Svelte is setting up global styles, because sometimes you might want to set up global styles, and using preprocessors can be a little more challenging, I found, in Svelte. So there are some drawbacks there too.
I'd seen that you could use a global attribute on a style tag. I saw that just in an article randomly, and that's literally not even there on the actual style element.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like just like space global. And then I just saw that because I was trying to figure out how you would set up Tailwind with Svelte, because I have to set up Tailwind with everything.
Right. Yeah, Tailwind's cool.
Okay, cool. So let's see here. So we have shown how to do a card here. Jeff, I think I'm going to give you a break. You have been you've been doing a really good job of trying to figure out how all this works, or in narrating to everyone. But I think now it's time for me to do something. Okay. All right. So I'm going to promote mine. Make sure I do this right. All right, cool. So this is, oh wait, no, that's yours, DVD's screen. Here we go. All right, Jeff, you deserve a break. So I'm going to mess around. So you taught me stuff. Make sure it's actually, all right, so it is mine. Okay, that's mine. All right. So we have this going. I'm going to mess around. Let's see. So we have, mine is, of course, my computer is like freezing up right now.
I mean, we have a real-time app here, just a matter of, the real-time aspect of it's super easy to set up.
Right. Where is, why is this just, it's just not letting me edit it. It says I'm live in it. Please excuse us while we go through our technical difficulties. Cannot edit in read-only editor. So how do I make it not a read-only editor? Is it?
That shows maybe there's a link on my end or some sort of URL parameter you need to.
Yes, I was wondering. Okay, how about? Okay, I'm just gonna fork it and
that works.
I'll just fork and then we'll rebase to head later. Or not, or never with the rebase. When I joined, when I was working on the Angular team, every time I'd have to do a rebase, I would go to Jeff Cross and be like, "You're gonna help me with this, right?"
Yeah, that's always like scary when you have to rebase something like massive project like that.
Well, because if you do a external fork, I'm not like a Git master, but if you do a fork on your on GitHub, like if you fork Angular and you make your edits and then you need to rebase onto Angular, you have to -f it, and that's just like, I have all these stories about how that's like a horrible thing to do, and but in that case, you're like, no, that's what you have to do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. That's Angular would be a busy project to be managing on a daily basis. Yeah, they have really, really well put together systems, like CI systems. Yeah. All right. All right. So what I want to do, okay, here we go. Now it's my turn to do something. I want to do
multiple. So you did one and you gave me a nice little card. I'm going to take this and do multiple of them. So I am going to create a call ref, and then from this call ref, and create this first, and that is db.collection of cities. And then inside of here, I will just do call ref dot, just to not break anything. And so I say call ref dot on snapshot of snaps. And then this is going to give me back multiple. So we have not done multiple yet. And while I do this, I'm going to ask you, because something I didn't fully look into, what is Svelte's recommendation for routing?
There's I don't know if they have a recommendation. It's a lot like React in that sense, where there's third-party libraries that handle it, but there's one, I think it's just called Svelte Router, that is the most popular option, that looks similar to React Router. So you set up routes and components and stuff like that.
And is that something that is like a first-class part of Svelte? Like, is it like Svelte/router?
As far as I know, it's not. I think it's just a project that's supported outside of the main Svelte ecosystem.
Oh, okay.
The only thing that they do directly is Sapper, which is like the server-side rendering aspect of Svelte. Right, yeah, like Next.js.
All right, so we have, let's see. So you did it like this with let data. So I'm going to say let cities equals this empty array. And then I'm going to say cities equals, this actually should just be doc list or city list. I don't know. Naming things is really hard.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing.
So now we have the city list. And so if I have this right, this is me kind of going rogue here. You go like this, and then I'd say, what is it, like for each?
That's close. It's just each.
Oh, each. See,
this is confusing. This part's confusing for JavaScript developers because it uses each kind of like you would see in Ruby or other languages. So it's, you start with the list first, and then you name the variable for each list item. So hashtag each. So it'd be like each city of cities, I think.
I have to read.
Or no, each cities as city.
Okay. I bricked the browser. This is the second live stream with Code Sandbox in a row. I've done this. So you see it up here where it's like 103 on the page, 106 on the page, 115. I might even.
Like on your processor?
Yeah. We did this with hooks before, Jason Miller and I.
Yeah, that's funny.
Basically, you enter these endless error loops, and you're hosed.
Yeah, you can go in there and just say while true, and that'll lock up any browser window.
All right. Let's see here. It is loading up. It's interesting that the control flow is done with these bindings. Or not bind. I don't even know what to call them. Like what? Yeah, what is this template? What? Because it's not a directive. It's there's not like a natural parent-child, style relationship between here. So like, what are these called? These control flow.
I'm not sure if there's an exact name. I would like call them, I guess, logic in the template, or maybe statements in the template.
Statements. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So what did you say? Each cities.
So yeah, each city's as city, or as
city.
As whatever you want to name them.
And then do I say like and each or
it should be each city's list. So the name of, I think, right? whatever your prop.
The global prop I'm using, or scoped prop I'm using.
Yes. Now each city is as city.
Okay. And then how do I end it?
So they end it with a slash each should end it. Yeah, like that.
Like that? Or is there
no hashtag?
No hashtag. I like to have as many hashtags as possible. And so now I can spread over the not city list, city.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
I think that should work.
Let's see here. Oh, we got 39 problems. 171 problems. Oh no, I've done it again.
Huh. Yeah, I wonder what's going on there.
I have quite the knack for bricking code sandbox.
Maybe you should be working on a Windows machine.
Apparently, I need to get in the comments of your last video. I have no dog in the fight. I'm like, what machine was given to me?
No, yeah, me neither. I think they're all good tools, and there's no best one. It ends up just being trade-offs. It's a lot like JavaScript frameworks. Like, there's no best one. It's just trade-offs between the different options.
So when I was in college, my computer just died on me, and I didn't have any money, at least to spend on computers. So I decided to buy a netbook. And if anyone remembers that fad. And so the netbook that I purchased had like an Atom in it, an Atom processor, and it ran on Windows 7, and it could not work. It was pretty much shipped on an OS that it was like, yeah, we can't actually work with this.
Oh, wow.
And so I had to install the Ubuntu netbook remix on it, and then it worked really well. But I had like this 7-inch screen that I finished my college degree with.
Yeah, that's funny. That's pretty crazy.
All right, so I'm afraid of saving and bricking again. So what could I be doing wrong here, Jeff?
Let's see.
So I have this.
Go. I bet it has to do with, let's see, on snapshot, you have your cities list.
Let's go.
Okay, so
you tell me. I'm just randomly logging things to the console.
Actually, I'm not sure. Here it is. Go where you're calling in your callback for map. You have just data, but you need to be calling d.data there. So that's one thing.
There we go. Let's leave that console log in there, and let me save. I'm gonna incrementally change this so I don't break it again. All right. Okay, let me do a refresh, because it shouldn't be rendering anything.
Right. Yeah.
Come on. It's a really cool 3D animation, though.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, console is clear. Empty. Okay, so it starts as empty, but it should subscribe. So
yeah,
interesting. Let me do. I would normally drop a debugger in here, but now I'm really afraid of doing that.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. Yeah, that in theory should give you all your cities in the console, but we'll see.
Let's see here. We got people in the chat trying to help us out. Also, I feel like part of it is that my computer is like on fire right now. That fan is going nuts.
Yeah.
All right. So there we go. Sweet. All right. So but this is interesting. See what it's doing is it might be the actual updates though. Part of me was worried about having like an infinite loop.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I think Arjun might have just mentioned that in the comments too.
Yes. Okay. Arjun, of course. No. The audience always knows your bugs and you don't. That's like rule one of live coding. You don't know your bug. The audience completely.
Yeah, for sure.
Hope it's not reading the doc in each loop. Oh, otherwise, no, just the collection.
Yeah, just the array that comes out of the snapshot. But I'm not sure why that's not happening right now. Well, try uncommenting your UI and we'll see.
That's what I was thinking. I was just being really careful before I did that. Yeah. Save. All right. All right. So far, it doesn't say I have any problems. I think there seems to be a bit of I think it's just running very slow too. There's a bit of impatience on my part going on. So let me refresh. Transpiling modules sounds like one of those things that when you played The Sims as a kid, when you're like waiting for it to load and it was like reticulating splines.
Right, yeah.
There we go. We got all of this real-time list up and running.
Yeah, nice.
What I'm going to do, we've got like 4 minutes left, so I'm not going to do anything too crazy to end it. Maybe we just take some questions. But I think what I might do as homework is turn this Tailwind into here.
Yeah, Tailwind would help here. Definitely get it looking pretty quickly. Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna, might do some homework here and figure this out. But this was a very nice, like, hands-on crash course. This was good. So I think, all right, let's go to that's because you keep thinking about what to do next while audience is reading. Yes. And I'm trying to understand your code. Yes. I'm not trying to understand my own code. I'm just trying to get it on the screen and working. All right.
Yeah, actually, I had an idea for it on my channel, doing something called JavaScript Jeopardy, where we take everybody in the audience can answer questions about JavaScript. And we'll do some like challenging stuff to see who knows the most about JavaScript. So if you guys want to see something like that, I want to maybe do that in the near future.
I would love JavaScript Jeopardy. And if I could be the Trebek for that, if I could be like, hello, welcome to JavaScript Jeopardy. Or I'd want to be the Sean Connery kind of host.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'll be the guy that like judges things in the background. You can host it as Trebek.
You could be Trebek, and then I'll be the Sean Connery, and then I'll just be like getting it wrong on purpose, and I'll be like, I'll do console.log for 400, Jeff.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, that works for me.
No, that's awesome. I think that you could really ramp it up too with like the 200, 400, 600, 800, 1000. Some of those thousands could be really, really tough.
Yeah. There's definitely some weird like loopholes in JavaScript that people don't know unless you really have been doing it forever. And I definitely don't know everything. Not by a long shot.
No, not at all. Event loop for 1000. Oh yeah, event loop. They'd all be 1000. Yeah, any question about the event loop? You're like, it happens.
I've like mentioned it in a couple of my videos, and I've learned everything I know about the event loop by just going through and like making those videos.
Yeah, you have to really decide to write your own blog post on it to learn it. You have to pretty much disclaimer your blog post and be like, I wrote this for me, not for you. Okay.
Right, exactly. The teacher, when you start teaching things, they say the teacher learns more than the students. And I think that's definitely true in my experience from doing YouTube and stuff.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we probably should floating point math errors for 500. Oh, yeah. Yes. Back when Eli and I used to work at the same company, the last assignment I did at that company was trying to figure out what happens when a bill is split. And there was always an extra penny. And because of the way JavaScript does, decimals, I was like, who gets the extra penny?
Right. Yeah. You need to like create a program that rounds it off and puts it into your bank account. And then like in a few years, like millions of dollars in your bank account.
The Office Space.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Office Space hack.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for coming out. If you like this, let us know. Hit us up on Twitter, _ David East, Fire. Everyone knows Jeff. That's why you're all here. And let us know if you want us to do this again. This was our first one, so I think we can be a little more efficient. And actually, I don't know. I'm pretty. I get pretty distracted pretty easy. Maybe I'll let Jeff lead the efficiency the next time around.
Yeah, I don't know. Definitely a lot of progress with my live streaming skills. So,
well, I started mine 2 weeks ago. So,
nice.
Great. Well,
Cool.
we'll see you all in the next one. And thank you all for coming out. This, like always, it's nothing without all you people in the chat. And we will see you all later.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See ya.